Yeah, a little bit about my playing career, guys. I played 7 years of pro baseball. A little bit about where I came from. So, like, I was overlooked in high school, just like your son probably. A lot of my high school coaches didn't necessarily think super highly of me, and I didn't get my first offer until just about my senior year of high school. Um, there's just a lot of overlooking me as a position player, as a hitter. I was actually known mostly as a pitcher, and I actually got drafted to the Cardinals out of NC State, which is where I landed at college commitment as a third baseman. So just because of how your son might be right now in the high school developmental process, it's not necessarily a guarantee on how things will shape up throughout the future. So I guess just to break the ice, anybody that's here on Zoom, go ahead and put it in the chat where you guys are calling from. What state are you guys from? Just so I get a little bit of clarity where you guys are from. I just saw on Instagram we have someone from India who's a left-handed pitcher, which is absolutely awesome. Ishan 44. Let's go. That's awesome. How do you format an email to college coaches, or when is the right time to email them? Guys, if you just go to my website, I can't believe you guys don't understand this or know this. I give away my email template that I instruct all of my students inside my academy to use. All you have to do is go to www.mendozabaseballacademy.com/email, and then you'll be able to download that right away. I think it's a Google Doc, so that way it's compatible, it's editable. I don't know if that's a word, but that way you guys can just make a copy, use it for your son. Ideally, we want these emails to always be coming, and this is the exact way that I instruct my students to do this as well. We want these emails to be coming from the player. There's no bigger turnoff than college coaches receiving an email from a high school baseball player's mom or dad, because that's going to show the initiative that's coming from the parents, and it kind of gives off this, it definitely rubs me this way, that parents want it more than the player, right? And that's just not the right dynamic that we want to set as far as like how we're going about the whole college recruiting process and the professionalism and maturity that's required to send out emails to college coaches and make sure that we're also just making sure that we're communicating with them in a timely effort, right? So this is kind of like that first impression. And I think a lot of the parents that are joining in right now know the importance of first impressions with like job searches and things like that, resumes. We want to showcase that professionalism from the get-go, so that way we instantly, raise our credibility and our professionalism. We kind of just separate ourselves from the stack of not necessarily resumes, but the stacks of emails that these college coaches are receiving, if not hundreds or thousands every week. All the highlight videos that they probably scroll through, and a lot of them aren't necessarily tailored for these college baseball coaches who are really busy. And I think a lot of people don't also understand that the recruiting coordinators at college baseball programs, they're not just a recruiting coordinator. They're usually an assistant coach, or maybe like the third string coach, so to speak, at a big time program where they also have to deliver for their current players of their current baseball program. So it's really important to understand, like, if your son's communicating with a college coach, like, their responsibility is their current team, alongside with making sure that they have new, refreshed talent in the pipeline. So that's just some of the responsibilities of these, recruiting coordinators. They're not just recruiting coordinators; they're also, they're going about their team practices as well. I sent a college coach an email with highlight videos and replied back asking for a YouTube video. What's your thought on that? Yeah, well, if you didn't include that email with the highlight video on a YouTube video, that's the first mistake, right? So like, we want to make sure that we're delivering these assets and these resources that these college coaches need to be able to make a decision on you as a player. If you just send a bland email with no links, nothing for them to basically get redirected towards, that's going to be a huge mistake. Because one thing that I always like to draw the comparison of is, like, if you're at a stoplight and the power goes out, and typically what happens in this case, if it's a busy intersection, there's going to be a police officer that comes there and directs traffic. Hey, you come here, you go there, you can cross now. So this is exactly what we need to be doing for these college baseball coaches. We want to redirect them to another asset that showcases our professionalism, showcases what we're capable of. Think a highlight video, maybe showcases, what we got graded at a perfect game showcase, if that's something that you guys have done in the past. So Of course, also, we want to include in that email, the basis of this question really was, we want to include things that these college coaches are looking for, which is mostly metrics and proof, right? Proof meaning the highlight video, metrics meaning cold, hard facts, right? It's not, hey, I hit 370 in high school last year. I hit 480 in travel ball this summer. Against who? We don't know what type of competition that is. We don't know who the scorekeeper was or the bookkeeper. We don't know if that base hit was really a base hit or if it was an error, right? So like these are the things that just a lot of people don't understand, that college baseball coaches do not care about stats. College baseball coaches do not care about how many or how little amount of strikeouts your son had this past high school season. Like that doesn't matter. That's not tangible to understand where he's currently at in his development. Whereas a metric, think exit velocity, arm velocity, 60-yard dash time, these are the most common for baseball players. That's going to showcase exactly where he's at right now. So that's my take on, of course, like what you need to be including into these emails, because of course, if we're not including these things, they will respond with asking questions like, hey, what's going on? I need this, I need that. And you don't want it to turn into, I need this, and I need that, I need this, and then it becomes like, okay, I needed to email this person 2 or 3 times just to get what I was looking for, when it could have been completed in that first initial email. So always think about that, and always think about how efficient we can have those conversations with these college coaches. So father of a 5-year-old in Alabama, I have no advice for you because I do not have any kids. I do not have a 5-year-old, and I typically only work with high school baseball players, helping them play in college. And a lot of you guys that are just joining in, I see that we have a couple more people inside the Zoom chat. If you just joined in, this is Coffee and Baseball, where you guys get your questions answered. If you guys want, you can put literally the letter Q in the Zoom chat. You can also, I don't know why I was looking at the wrong chat, guys. I do apologize. Okay, so we got Virginia, we got Maine, we got North Carolina, we got Illinois, we got Virginia, and we got Texas. I was on like a different like DM chat. I do apologize. So, what's your opinion on attending camps at different colleges? So, I always like to start and preface, especially questions like this, with what did I do in the college recruiting process? So I went to Rice University in Houston, Texas. I went to their fun camp. For those that don't know, there are fun camps, and then there's more prospect camps. Fun camps are open to the public. Think they're just trying to fill a roster spot so they can make some money, right? A lot of the times, these fun camps are hosted by the volunteer assistant, meaning they don't make any money. So this is a way for them to fill their pockets. When they're a volunteer assistant, we had a couple different volunteer assistants throughout my 3 years at NC State. They don't take a salary for the work that they put in. So the way that they make money are these fun camps, typically for middle and early high schoolers, right? So I went to Rice in, I think, like 7th grade. I later went to the Rice camp, I think my sophomore year of high school. Freshman year, I believe I went to a Naval Academy camp. I went to, I think my sophomore or junior year, I went to University of Florida. Oh yeah, way back in like 3rd grade, I went to University of Miami camp twice. It was like 3rd and 4th grade. I loved that camp. It was awesome. They boarded us in dorms. It was a lot of fun. I also went to University of Virginia camp, which was high up on my list when I started the recruiting process my junior year. And let me think. I think that was it. So my top 3 schools were Rice, University of Virginia, and NC State. Funny enough, I went to NC State, and that's the only camp that I didn't attend, right? So think about that. I didn't go to any of the NC State camps or showcases, and that's where I decided to take my talents, right? Quoting LeBron James. But that's part of the process of what I went through. So now I want to answer the question, what's my opinion on attending camps at different colleges? It's not essential, especially if like your son is already at the talent level of he can get committed without going to one of these camps or showcases. So typically, if you've already emailed some college coaches, you've probably seen that they will auto respond a lot of the times if they get a very generic email from a parent or a player. Hey, come out to our camp, right? Why are they doing this? Well, number one, it's probably the volunteer assistant maybe that's trying to generate some income, right? Since they're not getting paid. But also, it's just making it a super convenient time for them to evaluate your player. Are there other places that your son can get evaluated? Without a doubt, yes. Through highlight video, through an email, yes, that is a way that your son can get evaluated. through tournaments and showcases throughout the travel ball circuit without a doubt. There's also going to be more of those prospect camps at these specific universities, guided mostly for those juniors and seniors in a selected smaller group. So these are going to be more like, how does your son stack up with maybe some of the current players, and maybe they put that smaller group together to see how you practice, right? Because a lot of people aren't showcase style players where their metrics are super high, they're throwing 95 miles an hour. But like for me, I wasn't a showcase player whatsoever. And I wanted to make sure that my arm velocity was like good enough where it didn't make people like run away from me. But I had something in high school where I was a good baseball player. And I think a lot of you, parents out there can see in your son that your son has talent to be able to be a good baseball player. But it doesn't sometimes showcase his true talents in a showcase where metrics are the number one, form of, whether it's improvement or development, or how your player gets stacked up or ranked, for example, by a perfect game. So these are things that I just think about. Is it necessarily the most important thing to go to a college camp? No. I know that I didn't go to NC State camps, and I committed to NC State. So they chose to go outside of their comfort zone in a way, but they were already at a perfect game show tournament that I was playing at. I was communicating with the college coaches beforehand, and NC State took time out of their day to watch me pitch, and ultimately I pitched really well, and that's what took my game to the next level to play at NC State. So are they necessary? In my opinion, no. And that's where we want to be building a recruiting strategy at the end of the day. By building a recruiting strategy, meaning what are we using our time and resources for? Because yes, like going to these college camps, that is a strategy. Is it the most effective strategy? Probably not. But like you can go to as many camps and showcases as time and money will allow. Will it get you what you're actually looking for? Probably not, right? So that's where I'm focusing on the physical development, making sure that your son's like mindset is in a good place. So that way, when he hits the college recruiting process, typically around junior year, some players that work with me start in their sophomore year to ensure that when August 1st hits of their junior year, they have some contact with college coaches already. Think about it like preloaded, and then that way they're not on their heels when their junior and senior year rolls around and they haven't actually started that communication process with college coaches. So Jack F. question, is there a specific time frame when you should reach out to coaches, sophomore, junior, or senior year, or after making varsity roster? So great question. So as far as the time frame, right, like, and sometimes I like to zoom out of what the actual question was asked, right? Is there a perfect time to start, right? And this makes me kind of zoom out. Like, if we're really looking for that perfect time to start emailing college coaches, let's think about the stars aligning and your son throws a perfect game. Is that the perfect time to start contacting college coaches? Is there enough context even for me to be able to say, yes, that is a perfect time to start? No. It's not, right? Because I don't know your son's metrics. I don't know where he's at. I don't know what high school he's playing. I don't know if he's physically built and on a training regimen so he is prepared for college. So like, yes, you can contact college coaches if your son throws a perfect game, which is that perfect scenario. But is there truly a perfect time to get started? Let's just think about this as like a concept. In my opinion, absolutely no. There is not a perfect time to ever get started into chasing your dreams and goals. Right, and that's one thing that I've been able to see by playing alongside some of the greatest players of our lifetime. Right, I've been able to play alongside guys like Albert Pujols, Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Juan Soto. Right, the guys that get paid the big bucks. These guys became so great at baseball at such a young age because they decided they were going to be great. And if your son right now is playing video games and hanging out and not sacrificing something to play college baseball or to become the best baseball player on his team or in his class or in his region or in his state, guys, it's going to take a level of a sacrifice, right? So getting back to, is there a perfect time? In my opinion, no. Is there a perfect time to start developing like a pro baseball player? No. Like the best time to start was technically the day that your son was born. The next best day is today. And of course, I take that lightly, or you hopefully will take that lightly. I'm not actually telling you your son should have been lifting weights and bench pressing and squatting at 2 months old. But I hope you guys all understand, like, to develop into these top tier talents, which your son typically will say, hey mom, hey dad, I want to play college baseball. Hey mom, hey dad, I want to play in the MLB. Well, okay, are those actions aligning with those words, right? And if we reinforce that there is a perfect time to start developing and chasing your dreams and goals, or just simply reaching out to college coaches, that's where I don't mix well into that type of methodology, right? Like if you think that there truly is a perfect time to start emailing college coaches, cool. That's you guys are oil, I'm water, and oil and water don't necessarily mix well. What I'm saying is, I work with 8th graders and older. 8th graders that join into my academy will reach out to college coaches because, yes, there is a way to get on college coaches' radars without necessarily landing scholarship opportunities in 8th grade, right? There are ways freshman year to get on college coaches' radar where college coaches will have an understanding that there are certain players in their pipeline for when junior year rolls around. There's also sophomores that can reach out to college coaches and communicate with college coaches, initiate that conversation by emailing them directly, but with the intention of knowing that there's probably not going to be a scholarship opportunity on the other side of that email. But then junior year rolls around, like, yes, there are going to be opportunities, but it's going to be typically those people that have started that recruiting process. Maybe their freshman year, maybe they started their sophomore year, maybe they're just incredibly talented, they're 6'4", they're 200 pounds, and they're throwing 95 miles an hour in that first email that they send out to a college coach after August 1st. Well, guess what? Maybe that first coach decided to offer that player just because of that one maybe metric of arm velocity, right? So these are the things that I always like to think about. Is there a perfect time to start emailing college coaches? In my opinion, absolutely not. I know that there's a lack of a great time to start, which is typically junior, senior year. If you're starting just because the NCAA rule says coaches can't email us until after junior year, August 1st, we're already behind. And maybe I want to kind of dig deep and double click into this. There is a rule, NCAA rule, and of course all these rules and the recruiting landscape changes constantly, and that's where, like, I don't want you guys to have to be doing all this homework. I want you guys to hopefully come to me, join into these coffee and baseballs, or just honestly just consume my content on social media. You'll get a better understanding of the rules and regulations of what you can do and what you can't do. But there is an NCAA rule that college coaches can't communicate with your son until after August 1st of junior year. So I can't see anyone because nobody's cameras on, and I guess everyone's still in pajamas at 11:26 Eastern time. So, but I would ask for like a show of hands. How many of you guys are parents of freshmen, sophomores, juniors? But either way, if you haven't reached out to college coaches and developed an actually outreach strategy, and your players in junior or senior year, we are in a sense a little bit behind because we had the opportunities to communicate with college coaches. College coaches also have the opportunity to communicate with your son, but right now there's probably not a ton of traction. So for those sophomores, for those freshmen that have the ability to build out an outreach system, why not get on these college coaches' radar so that way when junior year rolls around, there is that traction already preloaded. So hopefully that answered your question. Maybe it was a little bit long-winded as far as, is there a perfect time to start? In my opinion, no, like really there's not. Especially after making varsity, like that's just like up to the coaching staff on if they're actually going to make on the roster. I don't think that's necessarily like what we need to be waiting for to take action towards our dreams and goals. All right, Gabriel, I appreciate your time. I wish my son was present. It's okay. I actually do these coffee and baseballs for the parents. Every once in a while, I'll go live on Instagram later in the afternoon, in the evening, around 7, 8 o'clock for some players that want to join in. But if you are interested in booking an eligibility review, guys, that is a part of the process as far as if you guys are interested in working one-on-one with me and becoming your son enrolling into my academy. We are 100% remote, and I talk about my triple play. I won't necessarily go into a deep dive just yet unless someone asks a question specifically about it. But do you have other time outside school hours? Oh, that was a question. Okay, well, I already answered that. Me and my team, basically, we speak with families, and I say families because, guys, this is a team effort. So ideally, if mom and dad are both in the picture and player obviously is the one doing the work, that's how we go about our eligibility reviews to make sure that everyone can be on the same page and we can set proper expectations from the get-go. So if you are interested, Gabriel, to book an eligibility review, what I'll do right now is just go ahead and put the link in the Zoom chat for anyone that is interested. There's also going to be a video kind of explaining what I do and how I help. All right, next up, we got JC. Missed the chance to reclass. He just turned 16 and is already a junior. He can hang with his class, but he really stands out when playing with his own age group. Trying to figure out if it makes more sense for him to do post-grad year or just head straight to JUCO. So a post-grad year, and this is where maybe I'm a little bit iffy because I didn't go through this process and I don't ever love to just guess in big decisions like this. But from my understanding, if you go post-grad year, there's going to be a harder time to be on an official roster, whether it's a college baseball program or like if you're playing like an 18U or a 19U or maybe even it's a men's league kind of like baseball team in that post-grad year. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the most effective strategy to get onto a JUCO roster or an NCAA level, meaning D1 to D3 roster. So in your specific instance, like I also don't like when messages like this are coming across as we've already given up, we've already thrown in the towel, he's already a junior, and we've already lost. Guys, we have like a year and a half for this specific individual, JC, your son. We have a year and a half for him to develop his skills and turn into an absolute freak of nature and throw harder and hit harder and become a better athlete. Why are we already giving up that he's not going to be able to have that opportunity to play D2 baseball? What if he turns into that, that very serious and dedicated and accountable individual that's putting in the work, and all of a sudden in 4 months, he's increased all of his numbers, his metrics, and he is turning into that prospect that college coaches will want. The reason I say this, guys, is because when I was in high school, in between my junior and senior year, I was throwing 82 miles an hour, which is not anything special. And I was a junior, right? Junior in high school, throwing 82. That is not good enough to get on these college coaches' radars. But in 4 months, I did a throwing program by myself. And some people might ask, how did you do a throwing program by yourself? I made it work. I made the resources that were available to me work. I threw in a cage. By myself. I had a bucket of balls and I threw into a net. I didn't need anyone. I wasn't reliant on anyone. And these are some of the habits that I see with a lot of parents, especially with middle school players and high school players. Hey, he needs to go do lessons. He needs to have someone there looking at his every rep. No, he doesn't. He needs to get the reps in on his own time, because I promise you there's really few private coaches or hitting coaches or pitching coaches that will stick with one player, just one single player, for 5 hours a day to make sure he's doing all of his work proper, right? Because that's what I was basically doing day in and day out for 4 months, and I took my arm velocity, because I was a pitcher in high school as well, from 82 to 88. Okay, now we're creeping up to that 90 mile an hour club, right? Once I got close to that 90 mile an hour club, NC State started taking me serious. I pitched incredibly well. I think I topped out at 89, the game that I got committed, basically. And you don't have to be throwing 95 miles an hour to play D1 baseball, but in a short, my story kind of is proving the point that things can change very, very quickly. We're in our junior year. This is the time to kind of hammer away at what we're good at and trying to be the best of what we can be, right? Rather than thinking about 2 or 3 years ahead and what those opportunities could be looking like, right? That's just my take. I don't like when players especially think, oh, I'm a freshman, I don't think I'm good enough to play D1, I'm just going to throw in the towel and be okay with being mediocre, so I'm going to go JUCO. Why do we have that mindset? So that's why I focus on the mindset inside my triple play program, is because some players come to me with that type of mindset and I don't love it. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't love when players discount themselves. I don't want your son to feel like he should be part of the dollar store, right? I want your son to have high hopes of what's to come, and I want him to also make that decision, because with that decision it does come a sacrifice, and the sacrifice of eating healthy is never fun, right? The sacrifice of working out 2-a-days is never really fun, right? The sacrifice of going to the gym on a Friday night instead of going to the football game or the basketball game, that's never fun. But there will be people that tell you or tell your son, hey, he's working too hard. He's going to get burnt out. He shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be doing that. He's doing too much. And if you believe them, understand that your son's probably not going to develop the way that you want to, right? There's going to be a point in time where you have to think about 100 people in a room, and your son has to be the one person in that room to walk out of that building or that room, right? That one person has the ability to play at the next level, that throws harder than everyone else, that has a better exit velocity, that has a better overall baseball IQ, has a better mindset. He's mentally mature. He understands the game and, of course, how the game is going to speed up. His mechanics are polished. He takes his own action without needing other people. He doesn't need a private coach to basically go get reps in, right? These are the things that people will tell you as far as he's working too much, he's going to get burnt out. You can't believe them, because there is a level of sacrifice to be able to play that next level, to be able to play college baseball. And of course, if we're okay with like a halfway sacrifice, we're going to get halfway results, meaning JUCO, maybe post-grad, maybe D3, maybe D2, right? Maybe there's a player out there that's D1 caliber, but he halfway committed. He halfway committed to himself. He halfway committed to the sacrifice, and instead of going to D1, he went to D2. And this is stuff that I see just about every single day with the talent level of increased development programs that are out there. Because, guys, the technology that everyone it has available to them is incredible. Like, I wish I had some of these resources that you guys have. I wish social media was around back in my day, so that way I could actually learn from someone that's actually gone through the process. And that's how I mentor my players one-on-one inside my academy. For those that aren't interested, my academy isn't just like a course. It's direct one-on-one mentorship with all my students. It's nothing necessarily in a group setting. There is a group chat, but rarely any of my students use it because they like to directly message me and have Zoom calls like this. But let's see if we have any questions over on Instagram. It's been a minute. And if you guys do have a question, just like Gabriel did, put the letter Q or just ask the question in the chat. And I'll get to your question right away. So like I said, I'm going to always prioritize Zoom questions more than anything. So my son pitches, 14 years old. Gabriel, if you're listening, let me get some clarity. Is your son a freshman or 8th grade? Concentrates on fastball and command. At what age or when should he develop other pitches? Freshman. So, like, I threw a changeup and curveball when I was a freshman. I don't think there's anything harmful as long as, of course, there's good mechanics, right? If your son's mechanics are not that great, I don't want him just to, like, throw, right? And by this type of thinking, I think I kind of think I understand where you guys are coming from. But I don't want my son's arm to ever get Tommy John. I don't want him to start developing bad habits by throwing multiple pitches. But at the end of the day, if your son, let's just think about the complete polar opposite. He only throws fastballs until he throws 83 miles an hour, right? Just making up random numbers. Well, now he's going to become just a fastball dominant guy. Of course, he's going to understand a command. But when the time comes where he's going to have to develop new pitches, he's going to be so far behind the competition of the players that have thrown other pitches, right? So if your son like just doesn't throw anything but fastballs, he, in my opinion, will become a really good thrower. And we don't want that, right? Especially because there are guys that I would see in AAA and in my pro career where they had great fastballs, but, and this is where like high level hitting will come in. If we saw any type of breaking ball, we saw a changeup come, like we just saw something that was different as a hitter, the easiest take in the world. And the reason why is because typically like some pitchers, even at that super high level, yes, they can throw 98 miles an hour, but have zero command of their off-speed pitches. And those types of players do not move up. Those types of players do not move to the next level, typically speaking, right? 98 miles an hour. If, Gabriel, if your son was throwing 98 miles an hour, like more than likely, yeah, he's going to play college baseball. Is he going to be the best player at his program? Possibly. I don't know, right? I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly what's going to happen in the near future, but I will tell you from some experience at NC State, we did have a guy that walked on that threw 97, 98, but his command, even of his fastball, was all over the place. And I think he pitched 7 innings. Nothing super crazy, right? He later got drafted by the Orioles, and I think he made it up to AAA, right? So, like, he worked on his command, but he had that one tool that he did extremely well. And that's actually one thing that I tell all my students during our onboarding calls is I want you to be able to self-reflect and self-analyze what you're good at and trying to perfect that. Because that's one of the best tools that we can have. For that individual, Tim Naughton, he threw 97, 98. I think he one time in a scrimmage threw 99, which was awesome. This was before everyone in the big leagues was throwing 99 or 100. And but like you could just tell when he got on that mound during an actual game, during his very few opportunities, he couldn't even do a PFP. And if you don't know what a PFP is, it's basically a comebacker to the pitcher, and all he has to do is lob it over to the first baseman, a very, secured out typically, and he would throw it 40 feet above the first baseman, right? So like you could just tell like the nerves got to him. He wasn't necessarily a competitor as far as his mindset. And these are some examples that I see with some of my students who have really solid raw talent as far as some of their metrics, but they need some help on the mental side, building out that confidence. And I don't know if anybody is in this Zoom chat right now that has a player that maybe is dealing with confidence. He gets in his own way. Maybe he just gets stuck at the plate. Maybe his swing doesn't look as smooth in games than it does in practice. Transitioning that performance from practice to games, guys, these are all things that really result to not necessarily the mechanical adjustments that are needed, but really the mental side of things, and using frameworks to overcome some of those struggles. So that's why my program, the Triple Play, is basically focusing on the physical development with workout programs from a New York Mets strength coach, also sprinting programs, making sure that your son's basically the best athlete he can be, the mental side, which I just covered, and then also the recruiting side. And the recruiting side is always fun because every player comes to me at a different stage in their journey and needs different levels of assistance. And of course, that's what I want to be able to assess and make sure that I'm properly tailoring a program towards your son, as long as he's in high school. So for those that don't know, I work with 8th graders and older. So if your son's a freshman, technically he's eligible to work with me. If your son's a senior, there's just different programs that I think would be better suited for where your son's at, especially in the recruiting side. And for example, like if your son's metrics are already top notch, like think 95th percentile and basically 60 arm and exit velocity, like that's where I will actually be handling the whole recruiting process for your son. It doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while I'll come across some players and families that all they simply need is just to get in front of these college coaches, and that's where I like to just do it for them, because I want to deliver those conversations from college coaches to their doorstep. But that's only a very select few that already have those super high metrics, who are juniors and seniors. Typically speaking, for the Triple Play, with most freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, it's really just making sure that you're developing the skills on how to reach out to these college coaches, get in front of them when you need to be tracking things like open rate, click rate, response rate. These are the things that are really, really powerful in the college recruiting process, because that's what these college coaches are doing with us in a way. Not necessarily us, but yes, us, because I went through the college recruiting process. I need to remind you guys, they send out these emails and they are tracking who opens your emails and clicks and responses, and also who signs up for their camps, right? Because at the end of the day, they are trying to make some money with those, right? So we need to be doing in the same way, building out those strategies, building out those assets for your son to be able to use to his advantage, so that way he can separate himself from the rest of the competition. So hopefully that answers your question, Gabriel. A little bit long-winded. Oh, let's go. Jason, we just got another one. Seems like most college coaches are responding to emails with camp invites. Seems like most college coaches are responding to emails with camp invites. How do you get around these invites? Oh, okay, so like they respond to an email about their camp invite. Okay. How do you get around these invites to know that they are interested in you? I know we can come back with a question, what kind of camp is this? But typically they provide a link that describes the camp, and typically they turn out to be a showcase style and or a scrimmage. Been to a couple of these already. I've been to a handful as well. Long time ago, but either way. And outside of getting in front of them, there doesn't seem to be much interest besides making money, like you just mentioned. Yeah, of course, with the, I don't know if you just joined in, I think I just saw your name come in, but earlier I was talking about some of these prospect camps and fun camps, and typically they're hosted by the volunteer assistant, and volunteer assistants basically don't take a salary. They're volunteers for the college program, and typically these guys are like minor league guys, pro guys, sometimes guys that played and then just continued on as a coach, but they don't take a salary. So yes, some of these camps are a way to fill their pockets, considering they make $0 a year. So with, of course, college camp invites, how do we get around this? That's the biggest question. That's the biggest concern a lot of people will have. It's we want to elicit some type of response from these college coaches, right? And yes, they can give a full-on description. It doesn't mean that we can't ask the simple questions of like, hey, what are your goals of this camp? Keeping it open-ended, and at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is create conversations. Because one thing that I've learned, and I've learned from a lot of people on how to create a website and how to message people, and for those that don't know, I'm working on some really cool tools. At the end of the day, conversions happen in conversation. So we are having a conversation right now, guys, right? And I appreciate you guys spending some time drinking your coffees right now, learning a little bit about baseball recruiting and baseball development. But at the end of the day, conversations is what we really are shooting for. If we're getting a pre-scripted template about a college camp invite, typically speaking, it's not the most personalized email back to your son. So how can we create that type of environment where these emails we know for a fact are personalized? We just keep the conversation going, right? We don't necessarily say like, hey, was this an autoresponder? Or we don't come at them in any specific way, but we want to just gain more information about who they are and maybe what the camp's about, what their goals are, because that's the way that we're going to ultimately understand a little bit more on their intention with this camp. Is your son going to be another number? Is your son going to be another dollar amount for that specific volunteer assistant? Possibly, right? That's where, again, if we give them the information that they're looking for beforehand, they could invite you to that camp because they like what you see or what they see. They also might like what they see and come out to watch one of your games. Maybe you're a local guy, right? So there's ways to go about it. At the end of the day, we want to just create conversation with these college coaches if they respond with any type of a camp invite. I'm going to go over to Instagram just because I saw a pretty cool question right here. So, do you recommend to go to any college school camps? Okay, this is a pretty big topic then. Like for instance, University of Miami every year charge you $350 for you to attend. Again, it's open for everyone. So it depends on where you're at, right? Like I went to University of Miami camp when I was in like, I think it was like second and fourth grade, something like that. And it was really awesome because they put us in dorms. It was like a week-long camp. We went to the pool one day. We had, like, honestly, one of the most memorable like camps that I ever went to, but it was just a lot of fun. They tired us out. We had like 8-hour-long work days in the intense, summer sun in down in Miami in Coral Gables. But it was just a lot of fun. I remember we also got to eat in the dining hall, a buffet style, and as a lot of baseball players and just athletes in general, any type of buffet, it's like, okay, let's just eat all of our food all at once. But basically, no. The thing is, like, yes, you can go to a college camp that's open to everyone. If your talent is at a certain level, like make sure that you just mesh with the coaches, build that relationship, network with these coaches, make sure to mention like, hey, I'm going to email you after this. Just be on the lookout, right? And then like ways to basically keep that conversation going. At the end of the day, if we keep that conversation going and our metrics are where they should be and we are showcasing that we are developing in the right way and these college coaches come out and watch some of our, travel ball games, these are going to be all the ways that we can further develop that conversation into, hey, do you want to come out for a visit? Typically, visits are like right before they offer you because they have that controlled environment. They can take you up to basically the manager's office and basically say, hey, we're willing to offer you an X% scholarship to attend NC State, right? That's basically what happened to me. And obviously thinking about those good memories and how shocked I was to get that first offer. And for those that don't know about this college recruiting process, once you get that first offer, it is an absolute domino effect until you basically land that scholarship to maybe it's a university of your choosing, right? So that's something that I always like to mention is because like a lot of players will come to me maybe with like one offer on the table, but what they're really trying to do is not just pick a college scholarship, but it's really picking the right college scholarship for your specific needs and goals. For example, for me, I wanted to study aerospace engineering. I studied that for 3 years. I didn't get my degree because I got drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in the 11th round. Played 7 years of pro ball between the Cardinals and Padres. Just 1 year with the Padres, but encountered a couple injuries, and then I started the Mendoza Baseball Academy for those that are curious. And yeah, now I teach players the triple play system with physical, mental, and recruiting. So thank you for the advice. Thank you, Jason, for joining in. You could have been doing anything else in the world, and you decided to spend some time drinking some coffee. I don't know if you actually are drinking coffee and talking baseball. So I just need to keep following up and pushing with a response back. What do you feel is the typical time you should wait to email again when there is no response? So that's like hounding, right? And if we're chasing the ball, like think about like a dog in the backyard and we're playing fetch and we're throwing a tennis ball, right? If we're just chasing the tennis ball, that's going to come across as very needy and not seen. So again, like, do we really want to create that type of environment when college coaches are, painting a picture of who we are. No, like if anything, we want to do the complete opposite, where it's like, I don't need you. You guys need me. Of course, I'm talking in the environment that your physical development's already there. You're mentally mature enough to like understand you might hear some no's in this process, and that's all part of the process, guys. So with that in mind, like we want to have that, confidence, just radiating out of us that you don't, or I don't need you guys, you need me. So are we going to necessarily follow up with a coach that hasn't gotten back to us? Probably not, right? So that's where, again, we just take the high road. Maybe not. I don't think that's the right phrase, but me and phrases. Sometimes I get them wrong. Sometimes I get them right. But yeah, we don't want to be chasing the ball and being that dog that is just chasing. In the recruiting process, is it good to start local or just wherever deemed fit for your athlete? It's always good to include some local schools because that's going to be the best environment for these college coaches to be able to come out and watch your son play. If it's a quick 15-minute drive, I'll never forget our recruiting coordinator at NC State, Chris Hart. He would go to local high schools because we had a great kind of talent system, a talent pool in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were also 15 minutes away from Chapel Hill. We were also close to Raleigh-Durham. So like we had plenty of high school programs around town that he would always come go to their games, and sometimes he would miss out on our practices because he was recruiting. But typically speaking, he was almost he was almost like the most consistent coach as far as coming and making sure that we were being taken care of. But he also had the responsibility of reaching out and making sure that the talent pool for years to come is a successful group of guys that can help the university win some games. So always keep that in mind when thinking about local schools. It is going to be a little bit more effective to be able to have them come out to one of your games, whether it's a high school game or a travel ball game. And that's when we have to perform, guys. At the end of the day, we have to be good baseball players. And yes, we've had a good long conversation about college camps. We've had a good long conversations about recruiting, but the development side is something that I want to make sure that I touch on before I let you guys go here in about 10 minutes. Is I want to make sure that you guys understand that if you're not doing the right things in the weight room, we're not developing like a baseball player with functional baseball specific movements, more than likely we will become, just another player on the list, right? We want to be not just on any long list of players at a college camp, for example. We want to be on that list, right? The short list of, hey, I've got this guy circled. I want to watch what he's about, right? Because that means that the college coach is anticipating watching your son play. And maybe let's just say like he forgot, right? But either way, we already did something before the camp or the event or the showcase or the evaluation event that created this college coach to want to learn more about your son. Typically that happens from having good metrics and developing the right way and showcasing that progression of development. If your son's not moving up and to the right, so to speak, and showcasing that development to these college coaches, now what are we doing, right? Because if we're not able to develop, now we have a development problem. Is any college program going to want a player that's regressing? Probably not, right? So that's where we have to think about, physical development, making sure that we are putting the best movements in the gym that are going to directly translate over to the field. This is something that really opened my eyes when I went to NC State. Is I was doing very bodybuilding workout programs that I created for myself when I was in high school. I like to always refer to this as the Notes app workout program because I would write out my program in my Notes app and I just follow that along every other day, right? It wasn't structured. It wasn't baseball specific. It didn't focus on rotational development. So that's one thing that I really saw once I got to college is like, whoa, I haven't been exposed to these movements yet. And I felt a little bit off guard, right? And I felt everyone was right here and it felt like I was down here. And this is someone that already landed a D1 scholarship, right? And attended, basically stepped foot on campus and felt behind because I wasn't doing the right things physically. So that's where, of course, with the conclusion of kind of like talking about the triple play, the physical development will always be priority number one. For a lot of people that think recruiting is the answer, typically speaking, it's not the answer. It's the physical development, making sure that your son gets to a certain benchmark, and then of course from there, reaching out to college coaches in that process of showcasing that development. So hopefully that answered that question as far as starting locally or kind of fit. But ideally, casting a big net in the beginning is always a good start. All right, a couple more questions and I will have to run, guys. I do have to jump to a call in about 7 minutes, but my son attended a showcase this summer. They were 95 coaches on site and 40 virtual. How does that work? it was a great opportunity for him to get on a lot of coaches' watch list as a sophomore. Okay, do we have a question? Jason, thanks for the help. So it's better to say I typically try to track all your emails sent to see if they've been open and clicked instead of just doing direct reply to a coach's email. Yeah, so like that's part of the outreach system that I teach to my students, is making sure that like we put those tools in place to be able to track open rate and click rate. Because what I mean by like click rate, it's not open rate, right? So like click rate is meaning like they've actually clicked on your son's highlight video. Open is meaning they just opened your email and of course maybe glanced on it and then basically backed away. Response rate is basically if they respond, right? Typically Gmail and most people have no clue how to actually track those first two as far as open rate and click rate. And that's where, of course, teaching the outreach system to efficiently and effectively reach out to these college coaches. It's very, very simple and effective. In 1 or 2 clicks, basically we're able to send out a lot of these emails to these college coaches and track all of that essential data as well. Joel, question, is there a showcase format that college coaches value more for metrics, rating, ranking? Perfect game, PBR, etc. It seems to get graded, ranked higher the more showcases you participate equals more money. In some capacity, like yes, if you're at a PG 7 and you go to 4 different perfect game events, like yes, you can get graded at like a 7.5 at the 4th one if your metrics aren't improving, right? It doesn't necessarily equate to the number of dollars you spend. I went to 2 perfect game showcases. I don't know how open I really should be about this, but like I was connected with like some of the people at Perfect Game where they're like, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity for you, and offered some scholarships basically for me to be able to attend these events, because not only college coaches needed to see me, but they were like, no, we need some of these pro guys, these pro scouts to see you. The reason they were willing to do that is because like they wanted to give me that opportunity to get seen in front of college and pro scouts, right? I got graded higher by not spending another dollar with Perfect Game. So that's just kind of to like de-myth the you have to spend more to get a higher Perfect Game rating. You have to be good. You have to be good at baseball. You have to have good metrics. If you're showcasing that development, first showcase that I went to at Perfect Game, I think I was throwing 86. Second one, I topped out at 90. Okay, cool. I'm in the 90-mile-an-hour club as a high school senior, which was the second one, is right before my senior year. I got better, and then they were like, okay, instead of a 9, we're going to give this guy a grade 9.5. And for those that are curious, let me just do something real quick, because I think it's always fun to bring it up. So I just did a quick little Google search of my name, and all right, you guys should be able to see my screen here in a second. So that's the young buck right there. And yeah, I was Perfect Game 9.5. I was a 9 before because I was throwing 86 as a junior, and I topped out at 90 or 91, I think. I don't know what these numbers really equate to, considering I got drafted as a 3rd baseman. So like Perfect Game didn't even know what I was really about. Yes, I got drafted by the Cardinals. Yes, I committed to NC State. All these things that I'm telling you guys are true. I topped out at 90, 88 infield velo. My 60-yard dash time my freshman year was a 9.5 second 60, and I got it down to a 7.4, and I was extremely happy because that made me feel like there was a sliver of a chance that NC State was going to consider me as a 2-way player, which they did, and gave me an opportunity at 3rd base my sophomore year. And I took that opportunity and ran with it. But yeah, that's basically just something that I wanted to share with you guys, because there are a lot of, I guess this is the biggest thing that I wanted to kind of end with. There are a lot of people out there on social media, and especially after, attending this Coffee and Baseball, you might see a lot of people that claim they played some pro ball or claim they played some college ball and want to, guide you in the recruiting process. Do a quick baseball reference check, right? So what I mean by baseball reference is you can do a Google search, of course, like my name, but you can just type in baseball reference into Google, and I'll go ahead and basically show you what this is, because this is a valuable tool to like understand who to trust at the end of the day. So baseball reference is right here. Evan Mendoza, baseball reference. It's basically going to just give you an understanding of who this player is, has a lot of historical data and stats. So if I scroll down here, you can see at age 19 at NC State, it started tracking my splits, right? My freshman year at NC State, I was 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts as a hitter. My sophomore year, after playing some summer ball, I started just about every single game, and I hit 362. 362 as a sophomore, and that's what my breakout year was, and that's what got me on a lot of draft boards and whatnot. I played in the summer league in the Cape Cod Collegiate Baseball League. Played at NC State my junior year. My power numbers were a little bit up. My batting average was a little bit down, but then got drafted by the Cardinals, and you can see went through the whole system and kind of just, of course, that's my playing career in a bunch of numbers. So if you ever see an ad from someone, if you ever see some content, do a quick little research. Baseball Reference their name. If you see one or two lines, I don't know what to tell you, but of course you guys can come up with your own solutions on what's really going on. I always look, the biggest thing that I've learned with what I'm doing and what I'm trying to share with you guys is do really cool, epic stuff and then teach other people how to do it. That's what I'm doing here. I went through the college recruiting process. I was very confused and I always wanted that helping hand, but unfortunately I never got it. I was still able to land a college scholarship. And guys, there's more than one way to land a college scholarship without a doubt. You can work with anybody technically, and if your son's good enough and has the heart and makes the decision to himself that he's going to play college baseball, more than likely he will, because he will make those sacrifices we were talking about earlier. But there's very few people that, of course, have been able to have that opportunity to play college baseball, and then not only college baseball, but beyond in pro ball. Getting drafted and then playing for as long as I did. There's also players that have played way longer than I have. And that's where I like to always make sure to humble myself and realize I'm not the best baseball player in the world or anything like that. So just wanted to share that with you guys real quick. And if at any point in time, guys, one tool that I want to share with you guys right now, some of you guys might have gotten a text from me as far as the baseball and coffee. There is my main phone number for the business, the Mendoza Baseball Academy. I created this tool. It's an AI agent. Hopefully you guys feel comfortable with this, but it sounds just like me. And this is my aerospace engineering background coming out for you guys, because I think it's a really cool tool that will help you get the answers to your questions. And of course, if you guys have a question about my program or about my career or anything like that, you can call the number. I think there's two numbers. There was one that's blasted out. It's the 941-367-2674. Just think about it. Of course, I had to call the IRS last week. A little robotic in the beginning, but of course you can always transfer it to a human advisor to get your questions answered. But I think it's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it, and the coolest part is it sounds just like me. So test that out if you guys want, and I'll be looking forward to hearing some of your guys' feedback. And one last thing, of course, if you guys are interested in working one-on-one with me, I'll go ahead one last time before we log off. I'm going to put the link to my website, the Mendoza Baseball Academy, the Triple Play. That's inside the Zoom chat. Do a little bit of research on me. Do the Baseball Reference. Google my name. These are the things. I'll put it as well right here in the Zoom chat as well. That would probably be smarter. And yeah, give it a call. It's going to start off typically, if you haven't booked a call with us yet, introducing basically myself, but my virtual assistant. It's pretty cool. It'll get your questions answered right away. That way, you guys don't have to be scavenging the whole website on getting your questions and answers. So other than that, I'm gonna head out because I am 2 minutes late right now. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to DM us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, text us at that number as well. I'm gonna be doing these a little bit more throughout. I've always enjoyed doing these coffee and baseballs, especially for the parents. Some of the kids, not always super fun. Sometimes the questions get very repetitive. How do you throw harder, right? But no, I love the questions that you guys asked today. And just be on the lookout for whenever I go live. That's something that I like to do every 2 or 3 weeks. I like to do these roughly every month. And of course, if you guys are interested in working with me, go ahead and schedule your eligibility review. Again, we work with 8th graders and up, so go ahead and do that. Send the link, or just simply go to MendozaBaseballAcademy.com. All right, guys, take care, have a good one, and I appreciate you guys spending some time with me.